pertaining to the music, my name's John Atkinson. I write all the music for Psychology, with some help from Dave Richmond, the drummer, in arranging, of course, because you have to have your drummer in on the arrangements and putting stuff together. Originally from Philadelphia, the band is based out of Hoboken, New Jersey, North Jersey. And Yeah, that's about it. I do, like I said, I write everything on the record. I play all the guitars except for two like cameo pieces. One by the producer Tom Bajour, and one by Tim Folion, who was engineered and is in charge of Cart Horse Records, the little label I'm on out of Hoboken. Um, yeah, that's pretty much that's like the news that's fit to print. Used to work in school districts. My master's is in educational psychology. Hence, kind of the name of the band kind of grew out of that. Um, yeah, that's kind of yeah, that's who I
So,
am.
so I am curious, as you know, you're going from educational into, the music realm. What was that like moment where you're like, I think I'm actually going to make that step into creating an album?
It's a good question. I was taking some time off. It was actually right after Hurricane Sandy on the East Coast, and my we had a couple. My wife and I had a couple of family members who were sick, and I was taking time off to kind of help out. And I was had gotten back into playing guitar. And one of the interesting things is I picked up the guitar again after a decent layoff, after studying the human lifespan and reading a little bit about how learning like a new language, or musical instrument, and learning music and practicing these things can is really good for your brain, and like fends off like dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff like that. And kind of was the impetus to kind of just get back into it. Um, and when I picked up the guitar again, it became less about like really practicing and learning it, and more about just like kind of writing. Like things started, just kind of piece of music just started like coming out. Um, and like I said, I was taking time off, and after, I don't know, I guess like 6, 8 months off, I had this batch of songs that I had worked out, and you know went in to record them. And the people I was recording them with were, I don't want to say the words like heavy hitters or anything like that, but they were really, experienced, awesome guys with great careers. And I guess that kind of, and I had faith in the material as well, and just how it was turning out. I was like, okay, this is pretty good. I think I can, this could be the thing. And it kind of, when you know what I mean? It was kind of, it just kind of organically grew from there, and it felt right. And, you know, then that was it, and then kind of all went into the record, and here we are.
I love the fact that you brought up that whole idea of keeping the brain alive and active through means of learning, whether it be a language or, in your case, music. I think that's like a refreshing take on wanting to get into the industry, wanting to like put out music. I think that's a beautiful take, and which kind of fits in that overall theme. There's something about this album that feels like my brain feels happy in a weird way. It feels calm and it feels great, even though there's such great ballads, such as First Contact, and then into like Blue, and as well as Rings. It just has that like weird feeling of just calm state of mind.
That I appreciate that. That's a great compliment. It's as far as that goes, I think you're onto something. I think with people in general, I you see people as they kind of, if you take, I have friends who, athletes in high school and college and stuff like that, and then they kind of like put it down and they're done with it, and it's like, no, you have it. And I always encourage people to like keep it, if you want to keep moving, you kind of have to keep moving,
Yeah.
it's kind of, like movement begets movement. So, I always encourage people like, you're not like, just because even if you have a job that if it's some type of job that's like repetitive or something like that, it doesn't mean that like you can't branch out and kind of keep expanding what you do. And if you expand what you do, you're going to expand like who you are. And it just can't be bad for you, to do more and to try new things. And when I got back into it, the thing was, kind of out of, I always loved music, and I was, always a super fan, been to thousands of shows and stuff like that. And, you know, kind of always attracted to guitar music and things, and definitely wanted to, you know, explore the whole thing about the lifespan and keeping the brain moving and things like that. But I couldn't have expected that when I sat down to do it, the stuff that was going to kind of come out, I'd go to learn something and it would just veer into like my own thing,
Yeah.
and that was very like unexpected, um, and I think that that's, one of the cool things about trying to do more in life is you don't know what windows are going to open and what avenues are going to open up to you with stuff you would never think of, because this was when I started picking up the guitar again. I was still getting my master's and, a career, or, starting a band or writing records or songs, or, and, doing interviews or something like that was not on the, on the table, or, not a thought, so.
Yeah. So I am curious in in this writing process of these songs, because they're not just like in that kind of same genre like we were discussing earlier. There's multiple facets of this, either a like heavy rock tone to this more uh I want to say like a soundscape kind of realm, where you would kind of see in one of those like meditation rooms. I'm
Right.
so I'm kind of curious in terms of the writing process for these songs.
It's funny. It's the writing process is so to explain kind of like the eclecticism of the songs is I listen to everything. Like I
Okay.
really I listen to all different genres, all the time. And I think a good song, is kind of a good song no matter what kind of form it takes. So the songwriting process for me is kind of born out of just being addicted to the thing, like I'm always doing it. Like there's guitars all over the place. They're out of their cases. I'm always playing guitar. Um, I'm always thinking about it, and, always practicing, always, you trying to sound better and trying to be better. And, there, if you're doing that all the time, then things are going to catch your eye, so to speak, and you're going to have this kind of, at least for me, you're going to have I don't know what the word would be, but like an instinct to kind of like chase it down and see where this sound goes. And like, the one song, without giving too much away, there is a song on the record that's like, one chord, real long feedback section in the middle, and it's kind of like that's you know that's what it was, so it just kind of came to be. And when it was finished, I knew it was good, like, and I left it alone. And then there's other songs where, like you mentioned, Rings, where there's a lot of different parts, and there were parts that got cut out, and there was a lot of different things to that. I could have made that 15 minutes long, but I had mercy on the listener.
Man. Yeah, I had the chance to, like I said earlier, I had the chance to listen to it, and Rings was definitely one of the songs that pulled me to the album a lot more. just because it had that really nice feeling to it. And then, of course, like I mentioned to you earlier, I then read more about you. And I love that this was a more of a dedication to your wife. And I think that's probably one of the most beautiful things I come across.
It's funny. I always joke around, and it's true. They're all love songs, and I think that that's universally true for all songs in a way. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
kind of, so it's without giving too much away. They are all love songs, but at the same time, you know, there's different movements in the music that are, like a little more aggressive or heavy, and I think that there's, again, like they're open to interpretation, and but yeah, I see where you get the idea on that song, makes sense.
So I am curious in terms of the what would be the most difficult one to do?
Like to
And
play
like
live.
I guess yeah, I would say to play live because
Rings
I
was
know the
tough because Rings has so many changes. Yeah, Rings was tough, but like my drummer Dave Richmond, I gotta get it was he's a really good drummer, so it kind of came off pretty easily. I
yeah.
remember when we did it, uh, Tom, the producer, Tom Bajour was like, wow, like you did it. Like he's like, I thought this was gonna take days, like yeah, I think we got it. We went in and listened to it, and we did. We had like a good live track. The drums were awesome. We had a good live track of the guitar, and but there's definitely some timing stuff in that was it's not that it's in like any type of weird off kilter like odd time signature, but there was just a lot going on, especially I think it's tough when you have one person writing it. Everyone kind of has to be a good enough musician to kind of jump on board, you know what I mean, with your idea. And
Yeah.
for me at least, it's I find my stuff, and I'm sure this is pretty universal, but my stuff is easier to play for me than like someone else's stuff. You know what I mean? So, you know, very props to them for being it, for Dave and for those guys to be able to like, all right, yeah, we know what you're doing. Let's do it, kind of thing.
I mean, of course, it would be a lot easier for you to do it because it's your own music.
If
But
if
you
if I mess up, who are you to tell me I messed up?
exactly.
That's the way it was supposed to be. I didn't mess it up. Come on.
Now that this album is out and it's had a chance to kind of breathe and move and about, um, what are we thinking about in terms of the future of it? Are we planning on touring with this?
So I'm not sure. My main goal is I really want to get in and do the next one.
Okay.
Because this album was ready to be released, in early 2020, but with everything that was going on, we hit the brakes and the vinyl wasn't printed, and I kind of wanted the timing to be better, for everything. So there was really pardon me, there was really no rush, even though I kind of, after all that time, you're definitely like, there's some angst to like finally getting it out. Um, but there was no rush. So right now, what I really would like to do is, is get in the studio. I've already talked to those guys, and we're going to hopefully get in the winter in like January, February, and get working on some new material. That's like the main goal. And if obviously if like the right kind of touring opportunity would pop up, that would be, something we would be excited about for sure. But we're not like jumping in the bus. We're not jumping in the van to go drive all over the place right now, so
It's I'm still kind of impressed by the fact that you're just like, yeah, the album's out, but we're gonna make new music right now. And I'm like, that's so quick.
I've got so Buzz from the Melvins, I remember seeing an interview with him one time, and he had a new record coming out, and they were asking him like about like coming up with new material. He's like, some of this stuff is like 15 years old. It's just finally I finished it,
Yeah.
and it's like it's been gestating for years and years and years. And I've got a lot of stuff like that that's been like, been coming around. And so, I'm excited to go in and, do the thing. Cause I really love the album as an art form. I love like the idea of like having a bunch of songs and sequencing them and making sure that they fit together, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
because with this album, there's definitely like, without giving it away, there's definitely like themes to like, the playlist and how the songs are bunched together and stuff like that. So it's that's kind of always been like very fascinating to me. And it's such a great art form to have like a bunch of songs, and like it's kind of like a moment in time. And but if you do it right, it can be applicable to all different moments in time. So it's it's really cool to me. So I'm very infatuated with getting in. I love being in the studio. There's so much cool stuff you can do. It's awesome.
I love that. And, just knowing the fact that you went from being a teacher and now into the musical world is just a cool adventure for you. I am curious, do you still like miss school?
You know, no, I don't. This is a much better gig. Um, the it was I loved it, and it was a hard job, and before while I was getting my master's, even before I was getting my master's. So growing up, I played basketball, and then I coached basketball for a long time. So I was always involved in like teaching, coaching, stuff like that. Um, and it was it was good, and it's like it's good work and everything, but I definitely reached like a kind of tipping point for myself, and I'm very happy that I somehow like a combination of like free will and determinism kind of got me here. You know what I mean? Those two incompatible things kind of brought me to this point. So, I there's times I miss it, but most of the time I don't.
Well, I'm glad that you're now into this new adventure. And, now that the album's out and you're gonna be back in the studio right away, I am also just wondering as to where we will be able to find you.
Like like what do you mean? Like where were you
Like
where
socials or
social?
um
So there's psychology. I think it's funny, this is terrible. It's psychology band. There's Instagram, there's psychology band website. Um the album's everywhere, Apple Music, Spotify, vinyl. You can find it at Tower Records, which is cool. Bandcamp, you know, but Tower's really, it's funny. Tower Records it's cool to kind of be linked up with them, because when I was younger, like Tower Records was the best place. It was just the coolest place. Like this is obviously before like digital distribution, but you could go and listen to records there before you bought them. And the one in Northeast Philly was in the basement of like the strip mall, and it didn't look like anything. And you walk down these steps, and it was just like this huge, vast like space, warehouse space. So it's cool that like you know that people don't really think of Tower that much anymore, but they've got a cool online thing. And I'm happy to be. So you can definitely find the vinyl, which is the way people should be listening to music. Vinyl, it sounds best, and it's just the coolest way to do it. At Tower Records, you can find it there, but it's everywhere else.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview.
No, thanks for listening, and thanks for doing the interview. It's a pleasure to talk to you. It's always happy to talk music.